Darth Jar Jar. Darth Jar Jar is the best fan theory ever made. Whoops. If George Lucas had just committed and just stole this theory, the prequels would have been remembered as the best piece of cinema ever. It's such a good theory. God damn it. It's so good. Thanks, resub relish. You gonna finish Moon Knight? No, I didn't like it. It has so much evidence too. I know. It's so good. But even Lucas said the key was Jar Jar. Okay, let's not get carried away. This was never Lucas's plan. The whole clip where he says Jar Jar is the key, he's talking about like, fuck, what was it? They're in like the concept art room, and he's just talking about the Jar Jar design. Or something like that. He's not actually saying that Jar Jar is the key in the narrative or anything. Yeah, here.
You may have heard already about the theory that's blowing up around the internet right now about how Jar Jar Binks may actually be a Sith Master. So I decided to make this video to explain every single detail.
God, I can't believe it's been this long.
So here it is. This is the completely airtight, absolutely foolproof case for why Jar Jar Binks is the most powerful Sith Master in the universe. First of all, Jar Jar...
They could have still done this too for the new trilogy.
Twisting somersault through the air that if performed by any other character, you would assume they were either a Jedi or a Sith. As we know, the Jedi themselves are inspired by Shaolin monks, and a convincing theory is that Jar Jar is based off of another traditional martial arts discipline called Zi-Quan. Jar Jar almost single-handedly takes out half a droid army using moves clearly taught in Zi-Quan. Zi-Quan, or Drunken Fist, uses stumbling and staggering as body momentum to be deceptive, unpredictable, and to confuse opponents. And Jar Jar mysteriously
He's so powerful.
is extremely efficient in killing every single time that he is in danger. And as Obi-Wan told us, there is no such thing as luck.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
In another scene, Jar Jar seems to fall from a bridge, although we have seen this done on purpose before by Jedi. And Jar Jar also falls in a completely different place than where he was dangling from. We can prove this because droids can be seen shooting at his original location, and their heads even follow him jump to the other side. Jar Jar
God, this
could
theory's
use
so
the Force
good. I
jump,
love
as
this
we've
shit.
seen multiple times before by Jedi.
They need to do
Jar Jar
Darth
is
Jar
also
Jar.
seen using sleight of hand movements and Jedi mind tricks during key plot points to influence the plot and change people's minds. He even uses them when he is promoted to general, when he's promoted to senator, and while he's persuading an entire galactic senate. Along with using the Force via sleight of hand, Jar Jar is also seen in multiple scenes using Jedi mind control to influence what people say, therefore changing the outcome of important events.
The Queen wishes it. She's curious about the planet.
I mean, right here he's not really doing anything. He's just kind of looking all goofily. But the other ones I like the idea because he is doing like hand motions and shit. This one's more just Jar Jar looking at a conversation. He's just staring. Thanks to the Prime fall away and the resub Kylo.
Jar Jar's own species are deathly afraid of him. Seems like less of a reaction to seeing the village idiot and more of a reaction to seeing somebody that you should be very afraid of. Jar Jar mocks Qui-Gon's ability to use the Force, perhaps because Qui-Gon's Force abilities pale in comparison of his own.
The Force will guide us.
Oh, Maxie bit the Force.
If you were wondering why a Sith Master would act like an
I don't know
idiot
why
like
people hated Jar Jar.
it's
Best
clear
character
that
in
he's
Star
just
Wars, god damn
fooling
it.
the Jedi so he can manipulate them into trusting him.
You hear that?
Yeah? Clumsy.
You were banished because you were clumsy.
He even pretends to be scared in a deleted scene where his ship is going to fall over a waterfall even though he can jump 20 feet through the air and he can swim and breathe underwater. Jar Jar also mocks Qui-Gon.
True, that's a bit of
behind
an
his
oversight.
back and in front of Anakin, teaching Anakin early to disrespect Jedi authority. Jar Jar tells Anakin, an 8-year-old boy, that Padme is hot, fanning the flames for Anakin's infatuation for Padme that is exploited later.
Imagine that's actually why Anakin fell in love with Padme, is because Jar Jar Jedi mind tricked him into falling in love with Padme. It would, you know, there is a little level of credibility to that, because he became obsessed with Padme. And it's what turned him to the dark side, ultimately. Maybe. Jar Jar planted that in his prepubescent head. Stuck with him for life. It's like the reverse Flash shit. Kinda, but for like the whole galaxy. Thanks to the resub Woody and Meppy and the Prime Mustard. There was an episode in Clone Wars where Jar Jar pretends to be a Jedi.
Pity hat.
Jar Jar also talks to and is very interested in Padme, even before it is revealed that Padme is the real queen. Jar Jar also influences Padme's decision-making when she's at her most uncertain.
We got a grand army.
I've decided to go back to Naboo.
Jar Jar senses that the Jedi are coming without any warnings. He could not have known in any way that they were coming, and he even walks up to the elevator seconds before the Jedi arrive, then pretends to be surprised to see them. When they're escaping Naboo, Jar Jar is the one who sabotages the hyperdrive, which forces them to land on Tatooine in the first place where they meet Anakin. Not to mention Jar Jar is the reason they keep running into Anakin. Jar Jar is seen suspiciously fiddling around in the back of the ship moments before the hyperdrive mysteriously breaks. R2-D2 even notices he was doing something suspicious, so he gives him a well-deserved smack before he is forced to leave in the elevator to fix.
It could have been
the
so
ship's
good if
generator.
Darth Jar Jar was the big
Every
bad.
droid Jar Jar encounters
It would have
seems
felt
to hate
amazing.
him and find him suspicious, and for good reason, because Jar Jar's mind control doesn't work on droids.
You know, I find that job.
He's just this like miasma of confusion.
Quite right.
Controls
He's very
everyone.
odd indeed.
So why did George Lucas create this devious Gungan character? Well, here's George Lucas talking about Yoda in a documentary. Yoda really comes from a tradition in mythological storytelling, where the hero finds a creature on the side of the road that seems very insignificant and not very important, but who turns out to be the master wizard. And as we know, Lucas's big deal with the prequels was that they were supposed to rhyme and mirror the
Thanks, the
original
bit's
trilogy
fishy.
in terms of narrative themes. So
No, I'm
there
not watching
should
that.
be a seemingly innocent creature found at the side of the road that later reveals himself to be the master wizard in the prequels.
I don't think that's a bad point. I think that's a very legitimate point to make. Jar Jar's seemingly has no place in Star Wars. Like, why is he there? Just an insignificant, like, comic relief loser. But George Lucas could have had the idea to make him extremely powerful, like Yoda. I think that's a really good idea. I like that parallel. Yeah, it would have been super strong if they had stuck with it. But everyone just fucking hated Jar Jar. And they hated Anakin. They hated Anakin so much they drove the actual actor portraying Anakin to do some wild stuff. Actually ruined his life. I can never remember his name, but his whole life was ruined as a result of being in this movie. Jake Lloyd. Yep, Jake Lloyd. Thanks to the resub. Erotic Cal and the 5 gift subs. Bump. Thank you, Bump. Appreciate it, man. Wait, really? Yep. Jake Lloyd hates Star Wars. He says it ruined his life. He was bullied in school for it. He lists a lot of really sad things that happened as a result of being Anakin in Phantom Menace. I remember back in 2012, 2013 or something, he ended up in a giant police chase. His whole life got fucked because of being Anakin in Phantom Menace. People treated him so terribly. He burned his Star Wars memorabilia from the movies. Yeah, I mean, I believe it. Thanks to resub Supreme and the Bit Samuel. Did you know that Yoda's walking stick basically just gets him high all the time? No, that's pretty awesome though. Thanks for the 5 gift subs, Candy. Appreciate it.
Don't forget, Yoda was also strangely annoying and dumb until he was revealed to be the most powerful Jedi in the universe.
R2!
So Jar Jar was supposed to reveal himself as the most powerful Sith in the universe, and Yoda was supposed to duel with his literal dark side nemesis and mythological equivalent at the end of Attack of the Clones.
That would have been
Not
so
the
hype.
meaningless, boring human Count Dooku who was randomly and hastily written in to cover plot holes when Lucas chickened out and decided not to reveal Jar Jar's powers because of the horrible backlash by the Star Wars community.
I also agree with that point. I recently rewatched the prequels. By recently, I mean a few years ago. Dooku really does just kind of come out of nowhere. There was like no lead up to Dooku. It was just in episode 2 in the beginning. It's like, and now Count Dooku is here. And he's ready to party. Thanks to the Prime, Ezio. And the 2 gift subs, Drippy.
Lucas even said Jar Jar is the key to all of this.
Jar Jar is the key to all this. If we get Jar Jar working.
Also, the actor who played...
And that's misleading. I just want to say George Lucas isn't saying like Jar Jar is the key to like the actual narrative or anything. He's talking about like the concept art or like the CGI or something. I don't remember exactly, but it's in reference to like the art or the technical stuff. It's very misleading context, but I still love it in this video here because it makes it more believable.
Played Jar Jar even tweeted, "I will say this, it feels good when the hidden meaning behind the work is seen, no matter how long it takes. Hashtag the Phantom Menace." Not only is Jar Jar a Sith, but it's very possible that he may not just be working with Palpatine, but possibly the Sith Master above Palpatine, and Palpatine is really the apprentice and pawn of Jar Jar. You may not know, but Jar Jar follows Palpatine everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Even after Qui-Gon's funeral, seconds after Yoda explains how there's always 2 Siths, a Sith Master and an apprentice, Jar Jar is seen standing
Darth
right
Bane's
beside
rule
Palpatine
of 2.
before he's even supposed to know who Palpatine is. Not to mention that Jar Jar and Palpatine are from the same planet. Out of the millions of planets in the galaxy, Jar Jar and Palpatine both are from Naboo. Jar Jar even convinces Padme to promote him to senator. And Jar Jar is the one who convinces the entire Galactic Senate to abandon democracy and give Emperor Palpatine full control.
So when I rewatched it, that's not exactly how it happens. Like, Jar Jar was clearly on the side of giving Palpatine control, but he wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only guy to lobby for it. This sets it up a little bit differently than it actually happens. But yeah, he was certainly like okay with it and encouraged it. He Jedi mind tricked the other supporters. Yeah, I think he may have. That son of a bitch. Thanks to resub Mogum. Nabitsgato and Drippy. You've been drinking out of the same glass for years. Goddamn right I have. Jar Jar has black nails. It's a sign he's a Sith. Oh, interesting. Another good point for the theory.
If it wasn't for Jar Jar, Palpatine would have never risen to power in the first place. The actor who voiced Jar Jar even explains a deleted scene where Palpatine and Jar Jar walk in secret and Palpatine thanks Jar Jar for putting him in power. He also says that George Lucas made big changes in the prequels because of backlash. Also, whenever you think a Sith is the master, you always find out later on that there was always somebody controlling the Sith.
I guess kind of, but not really. It's only Darth Maul and Darth Vader. That's it. Those are the only ones you see in the like prequel trilogy and original trilogy. So it's only 2. The eyes too, kind of to an extent, because like Palpatine's eyes and Jar Jar's eyes are pretty similar. Like they're the same color. But not a super strong point. Just probably George Lucas being lazy. I very much subscribe to the Darth Jar Jar theory, though. I think that it is very possible that this was an idea at some point. Thanks for the resub, Alan.
Always somebody controlling the Sith. You think Darth Vader is the Sith Master, and then it's revealed that Darth Sidious is actually the Sith Master. You think Darth Maul is it, but then it's revealed that Palpatine was actually the mastermind. Even Padme had a decoy queen, and Padme just pretended to be her servant, just in case there was an assassination attempt on the queen. Sound familiar? So from this, we can conclude that the one behind the scenes that was controlling everything, the real Phantom Menace, the real Sith Master, was Jar Jar Binks all along.
I still believe. That would have been so fucking good. Oh, it would have been so good. If I was Disney right now, I would just de-canon the entire new trilogy. There's just nothing worth salvaging there. And just follow through on Darth Jar Jar. Let him still be alive somehow. And just go hog wild with it.